Hi, my name is Diane Hanson. I'm going to talk a little bit about the inspiration and ideas behind my new exhibition at the Baton Rouge Gallery titled Disconnect. These works evolved from a previous body of work titled Selective Memory. In those paintings, I reflected on our efforts to control and organize the world around us, and whether memories are consciously edited or selected without intention. I manipulated and reassembled images to represent fragmented memories that shape expectations and perceptions. In a sense, the work questions if we can write or rewrite our personal history through selective memory and what we choose to focus on. I used myself as a repeated figure in those works, a persistent Pollyanna who is deconstructing and reconstructing her world. The self-portrait emerges again in this new work, not out of some self-focused narrative, but as an effort of honesty, of stating that I can only experience the world through my perspective, experiences, and imagination. Any desire to connect or understand another perspective will always be limited by my own, despite the empathy and imagination I employ to try and imagine walking in another person's shoes. This painting, titled Malleable Memories, can be viewed from all four sides, allowing images to be revealed or diminished as the focus of the viewer shifts. Unlike the persistent Pollyanna figure that focused on an individual's ability to shape their own world, these paintings questions what happens when we have to contend with others who are also shaping their world and influencing ours. When engaging with another person, we filter their experience through our own, connecting where we share common ground and struggling to understand where opposing experiences or ideas are encountered. The decision to foster understanding or to force our own views, creating conflict, is presented. We can choose to connect or disconnect. This piece, titled Conflicted, reflects this conundrum, with one figure expressing anger, which is a secondary emotion, protecting what is dearest to them, which is represented by the house in the circle. The other figure, who is being assailed with arrows, is forced to choose to engage, defend, or disconnect entirely, which is represented by the parachute. But conflict, if reflected on and handled productively, can result in growth, which is why the tip of the arrow transforms into a tree. The painting Release is about the inevitability of death and loss. The figure on the right is exhaling the last breath and moving away from the line that visually delineates the connection between the two individuals. The house, reflected on both sides, represents shared memories, floats away on a leaf to the right. You may have noticed I use a limited palette, limiting certain colors only to one side or the other, such as the green on the left, to visually separate the image. This leads to an 8-panel painting titled Disconnect. Each panel was laser cut with an epilogue laser and mounted at different heights so the panels overlap. You will notice there are apples that appear in several of the paintings, representing simultaneously truth, temptation, knowledge, and growth. At the center of this painting are 2 apple slices, but the core is missing. The center panels, painted with green, represents growth. As the viewer moves to the right, the landscape transitions into an urban landscape with a limited palette of burnt umber and ultramarine blue, becoming colder, transitioning into winter, where growth is halted. If the viewer moves to the left, the landscape becomes more rural, and agricultural. And the limited palette is burnt umber and alizarin crimson, transforming the landscape into the season of fall and then a drought, eventually consumed by flames, destroying growth. Being raised on a farm in rural Minnesota and then moving to various cities throughout my life, I've seen the disconnection that transpires from the differences in daily realities. When you move too far away from the center in this painting, the area of growth, the truth or apple held by the two owls begins to fall apart, representing that your truth, your reality, may not be the same for another. The apple represents the falling apart of connections, understanding, and shared goals. This painting, titled Just Smile, continues to explore how the past impacts the present, reflecting on the history and expectations women carry. There is a lot of symbolism for the viewer to ponder. A sculpture of a figure representing justice with the scales that look unbalanced from the perspective chosen. The goose and the golden eggs, a running doe, Ginsberg's gavel, and a bicycle wheel, fish, and various flowers. This painting can be displayed two ways, with the figure at the bottom, trapped under the weight of history, with a string that rings the bell at the top, the dead ringer, used by people who are afraid of being buried alive. The figure is confined at the bottom in a space similar to a coffin, with a carved portrait of the figure smiling. If you flip the painting, the figure appears to be about to stand up, representing that she can build upon the past rather than be confined by it. The ripples of water, breaking the image, questions if the figure's decision is merely a mirage, a reflection broken by exterior forces. The final set of 5 paintings represents the evolving relationship between mother and daughter. Beginning with infancy, the yellow line separating the two is narrow and far to the left, as the child develops the ability to distinguish objects, develops consciousness, and form memories. The apple appears in this piece as a toy on the far right side of the panel. Light from a projector is illuminating the objects and toys that foster learning and growth. As the child grows, the yellow line becomes wider. The apple appears on each side as individual knowledge and personality grow. The mother's apple is covered in caramel on one side, with bees and hornets on the other, hidden from the daughter. This represents how parents carefully curate information, sugarcoat it, to protect innocence while simultaneously preparing them for the realities of the world they navigate. In Regeneration 3, aka the teen years, the daughter turns away from the mother as she develops more independence. On the mother's side, the apple is on fire on top of a typewriter, conveying the desire to share experience and knowledge while fearing her influence is becoming obsolete. In the final set of the paintings, Regeneration 4 and 5, the daughter has reached independence, separated from the mother and venturing off into the unknown future. But her inner voice is still turned toward the mother, carrying the comments and advice into adulthood. While the mother, with one face turned to the daughter, steadfast and constant, has another face turned away as she begins to navigate the next chapter of regrowth. Thank you so much for your time and interest in my work. I believe visual art is a wonderful vehicle for learning, sharing ideas, and fostering a deeper understanding of the world we share. I hope you've enjoyed hearing what brought this work to fruition. If you have questions or comments, please reach out. Thank you.